My name is Paul Rasch. I'm a fifth-generation farmer. My family and I own this piece of ground we call Wilson's Orchard and Farm in Iowa City. I'm here today to talk about one of the most exciting and important announcements that we've ever made. But first, I want you to know a little bit about how we got to this point. For those of you that don't know us, Wilson's Orchard and Farm was founded in 1980 by Chug and Joyce Wilson. They bought this beautiful 90-acre farm in Iowa City. They planted an orchard there, and they turned it into a local institution. Our family moved to that area in 2006 with an eye towards developing the same sort of business, a retail orchard. And in 2009, we actually purchased Wilson's, and that's where our journey really began. So I grew up in the commercial fruit business. Growing fruit is not a big jump for me. We just sort of figured, my wife and I, that this would be kind of a semi-retirement project for us. And for the first few years, we really focused on improving what was already there. Beautiful orchard with lots of varieties. We sort of upgraded some of the care of that. We improved the bakery a bit, but everything was from scratch. It was already great. And the farm experience was really, really rewarding for customers. We tried to keep that as it was, as much as we could. And the business grew, and life was pretty good. But eventually, as our kids got into the business, our vision for the farm as a family really started to broaden. We really wanted to focus on doing something more meaningful, something that would leave the world in a slightly better place than where we found it. And we knew that there were serious issues in agriculture, and as well as great opportunities for how to improve it, and we just wanted to plug in and do our part. Over the past 100 years, we've seen huge changes in agriculture, as well as in our food systems that process and distribute our food. New technologies have led to great big increases in crop yields, and processing has made food both more convenient and cheaper. As a result, there's just a lot less hungry people in the world, and a lot less of our income is now spent on food. These are great things. At the same time, it's really important to recognize that those great changes have come at a fairly significant cost. The move towards getting rid of windbreaks and planting everything fence row to fence row has led to a lot more soil erosion, a lot more soil degradation. We use a lot of pesticides and fertilizers on our land anymore, and that is fouling a lot of our waterways. Livestock has moved basically from outdoors to indoors, and often in very crowded conditions, and this necessitates the use of antibiotics in large quantities and other drugs to keep animals healthy. As well, less and less of the money that is spent on food is actually ending up with the farmers. So only 15% of that dollar bag of carrots that you bought actually ends up in a farmer's pocket. This leads to larger farms who are able to deal with very low margins. It leads to fewer young farmers who can't afford to get into this big capital-intensive business. The average age of farmers in the States is already pushing 60, and it's going up every year. At the same time, the rural communities that used to be supported by these farmers and all of the things they were buying have started to wither and die. A lot of these problems in agriculture are also mirrored in our overall food system. As we have urbanized and suburbanized, we've lost almost all the connections we had with the sources of our food. And at the same time, the sources of our food have consolidated tremendously. And while that's led to cheaper prices, it also means that our food supply is now really concentrated. Often food is shipped from very long distances from a handful of production centers. Ready-to-eat meals, for instance, from California, or organic lettuce from Mexico. You know, the list goes on and on and on. A lot of this may have slipped under the radar for people. I'd say for a lot of people, they maybe didn't notice this until the first year of COVID, when we had one single meat packer go down, and boom, all of a sudden there's national shortages of meat from this one meat packer. Probably the worst thing about our current food system is just how rare it is to get high quality food. We've gotten really used to buying over-processed foods that have a list of ingredients, longer than the Bible. You need a dictionary to understand what's going on here. These foods, sure, they're cheap and they'll last maybe 30 days, but they just don't have a lot of nutrition. While it is true that they're cheap, They're only cheap if you don't look at how we eventually pay for them with our health. They're actually not a bargain at all. So that's the flip side of our modern food system. We got lots more food for sure. It's pretty affordable, it's very convenient, but we've also incurred a significant amount of social and environmental costs along the way. We feel very strongly that we can use lessons from agriculture, from our agricultural past, to employ new techniques and new technologies to grow plenty of high-quality food without incurring all the heavy costs that we've seen in the past. The impetus for a different food future is really in our hands. If I go to a fast food restaurant, I am supporting confinement animal operations. I am supporting chemical-intensive, cheap grain, and at the same time, I'm supporting the move to ever larger and larger and larger farms and all that goes with that. On the other hand, eating locally grown food supports an entirely different economic model where money circles through a community, and that can really help ensure a more sustainable food future. That's our choice. Back in early 2020, our family started looking at how business could be used as a force for good. And we believe that as long as there's public interest in solving a problem, companies that have the right mission, the right business model, and the right products can really help solve some of these critical world problems. We made a commitment to no longer sort of sit on the sidelines. We decided to commit our time, our work, and our business to being part of the solution. And with that in mind, we really dedicated ourselves to developing local, ethical, and regenerative farm and food systems in eastern Iowa. We knew that in order to have even a small chance of success, we would have to reimagine our business, and we'd have to earn the support of a lot more customers to help sustain that effort. The first and probably most important step in that process was expanding the management team. And we've been incredibly lucky. We focused on building a team of people, these are a lot of young people, that were as invested as we are in regenerating our land and believed strongly as we did in localizing our food and beverage systems. Over the past couple of years, this team of managers have really helped lead us through this challenge of transforming our business, even as we suffered the ravages of COVID. The second part of the program was the actual transformation. Over the past couple years, we've gone from being a seasonal to a year-round farm. And along that way, we've transitioned from a monoculture farm, basically just growing apples, to a polyculture farm, growing a wide variety of crops on a wide variety of soils and shifting them as often as we can. At the same time, we've accelerated the use of sustainable and regenerative ag practices, things like cover cropping, reduced pesticide use, scouting for pests, things like that. In order to pay the bills, we've also leaned pretty heavily into vertical integration, adding new businesses and new products that pull more value out of all the crops that we grow. We knew when we got into this that this was not going to be an easy task, and there's been plenty of setbacks, a lot of challenges along the way. But I think for me, through it all, I've really been overwhelmed by the support that we've gotten from the community. I think that's the biggest single sign that we have that we're on the right track. Now, I'm not 100% sure that we've actually earned all that support yet, but you know, the development of this business, as we have reimagined it, is really still in its infancy. And the fact that there are so many people who support our move towards improving our farm and improving our food systems, it just really resonates with us and really, I think, gives us great confidence to forge forward. Now, all that said, I did promise up front that we would be making an announcement. While we distribute our hard cider, our non-alcoholic beverages, and some of our frozen foods into the Des Moines market, we've really been primarily focused on developing our business in eastern Iowa. However, since 2020, we've also been quietly working behind the scenes to set up a farm in the greater Des Moines area. And today I am super excited to announce that we have bought a farm. We've actually planted an orchard there, and we've planted other crops. And we will break ground this fall to build a building there. Wilson's Orchard and Farm in Des Moines is going to be opening for strawberry season 2023. That's next year in June. and thereafter we'll be open year-round, just like our farm in Iowa City. This farm in Des Moines is going to feature a lot of the same offerings as our farm in Iowa City. It's also going to have some very localized offering, and that will increase in time as we learn more about what the community in Des Moines really wants. So the farm itself in Des Moines is about 115 acres. It's got about 30 acres that we're going to devote to rotational grazing of livestock, and the rest will be in fruit trees, berries, pumpkins, flowers, vegetables, but also in prairie and in places that are just left to express themselves naturally. As with our farm in Iowa City, our focus in Des Moines is going to be on connecting our guests with their food intimately and with the land that it comes from. As such, of course, we'll be having lots of U-pick. In fact, most of the crops that we grow will be offered for U-pick as well as pre-pick. And of course, we'll also have a farm market similar to the one in Iowa City. That's where people can come, they can get produce, prepared foods, beverages, and local crafts, merchandise, gifts. It'll all be there. On the culinary side, we've got our executive chef and James Beard finalist Matt Steigerwald, who will be overseeing the development of a bakery and a restaurant that we are really excited about. Like our Iowa City location, our bakery and restaurant are going to focus on locally sourced stuff, high quality ingredients, and cooking from scratch. Unlike the Iowa City farm, the bakery, restaurant, cider production, and farm market are all going to be integrated into a single facility connected with a large indoor and outdoor seating area that we believe is really going to improve the guest experience and enhance the community that comes from large gatherings of people. Another significant difference between our Des Moines and Iowa City locations is that we will be producing hard cider on site in Des Moines. And as a result, we're going to offer a lot of interactive experience designed specifically around the celebration and pairing of hard cider and food, like you'd see in Spain and so many other places in Europe. Now, most people don't know this, but Iowa actually used to be one of the largest apple producers in the U.S. And prior to Prohibition, hard cider was the most popular alcoholic beverage in the country. I mean, this was largely because apple trees are easier to grow than grapes in much of the country, and certainly that's true here in the Midwest. All that changed with industrialization, with urbanization and prohibition, but today cider is really making one huge comeback, and one of our goals as a company is to help re-establish cider and a cider culture here in Iowa. Our farm in Des Moines is going to be part of Iowa's first agri-hood, located in the town of Cumming. It's just south of West Des Moines, right off from I-35. So agri-hoods are residential communities which are directly connected to a farm. That farm provides the residents with food, with green space, and with ongoing farm experiences. Sort of the next best thing to growing up on a farm. This brings to mind an ecological concept called the edge effect, where the margins between one ecosystem and another, between say a hayfield and a woodland, are where you see incredible diversity and you see incredible resiliency as a result. So we look at the agri-hood under similar eyes, you know, that this meeting of urban and agrarian communities is a place where we can have great diversity, we can have great resiliency. It's a place where over time we can learn to coexist, where we can learn how rural and urban can thrive together. In coming years, we plan to do more at both farms to educate our communities about just how important it is to develop local, ethical, and regenerative ag. We're really excited about doing that, particularly right here in the state of Iowa. I mean, this is a place, Iowa, with a very rich farming heritage. I mean, going back to the pioneers and homesteaders and all the way up to our industrial farming that we see today. It has great soils. It's one of the most fertile and important agricultural areas in the entire world. And we believe that those rich soils and our rich traditions could and should allow Iowa to actually become a sort of Silicon Valley for agriculture and for food production. We should be home to lots of different innovation on farms, lots of farm and food startups that really help to start to shape, shift, and revolutionize the business of agriculture and help to lead us to a more sustainable future. We believe that Iowa can be an international leader in how we develop the farm and food systems not only of today, but especially of tomorrow. I'm impressed by the potential of our state, and we're really excited about being a small part in realizing it. In the coming weeks and months, we're going to be sharing a lot more information about the development of our farm in Des Moines, as well as the farm in Iowa City. We sure hope you'll stay tuned for those updates, and we sure hope that we'll see you all for our grand opening in Des Moines.